guys. I gotta quit doing that goofy face at the very beginning. I'm not used to doing live broadcast, obviously. So I'm doing a retake. I'm Amy Miller. If anybody's tuning in, or maybe you guys are gonna tune in later, thank you. And if anybody watched yesterday's Power Hour, that was my first one. So I do lots of videos, and I'm keeping the podcast now, and I do webinars and things like that. But I didn't know that you have to close all of your tabs. Actually, I did read that, but then I forgot and left one open yesterday, and then the mic I learned about the settings the hard way. So that can be a great example for anybody who I hear this a lot. People wanting to for everything to be perfect before they make the move, and so then they don't make it. So done is better than perfect. Although I don't know if yesterday's broadcast was if done was better than perfect, because if anybody listened to it, tried to super bad. Hopefully this one's better. We'll find out. But anyway, I want to do start doing Power Hour sessions. So we'll figure out the. I think they're going to be on Tuesdays. Doing a redo of the one this week was not yesterday, Thursday. But anyhow, just want to hop on and share some concepts and tools and tips that really help me and also help my clients. I'm a career coach. I am just very passionate about helping others to identify and pursue their passion and purpose. I believe that everybody has a purpose, and we are in alignment with what that is for us, doing that thing that lights us up, even just a little bit each day. If your job is not your passion, take time each day to do a little bit of love. You're going to feel really good, more magnetic toward your goals. And of course, I'm talking about today about curiosity and how we can use it to navigate our career path and actually achieve our goals faster. So I'll give some stories and some examples and some tips on how you guys can create curiosity. And I am curious. No live broadcast. If you guys can come. Oh yes, you can later. I learned that yesterday. People did. But I'm curious if you guys ever think about curiosity. If it's maybe enter if you want to leave a comment. Sometimes, always, or never. For me, it's probably always. I've always been very curious. Since I was a kid. And curiosity is a powerful tool that everybody has. It's something that only you can take from yourself. And a lot of us do. And take our own curiosity from ourselves, not employ it. And the reason why is we're choosing logic. Like let's say for example, you get curious about something that you want to do, or you want to try, or you feel like doing, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense for you in that moment, or for where you are on your path right now. That could be and often is a missed opportunity. If we so curiosity by definition is a strong desire to learn or know something. So if you are curious about something, you have this strong desire to learn or know something, why wouldn't that thing be, why wouldn't you be curious for a very good reason? I have found many times I can think of. I'll just give a couple examples as I go today, because I want to keep it short. But there's so many examples and past experiences in my life where I can look back and remember, I was curious about this thing. And then maybe it was in my career path, maybe not. Today I'll give some examples on how curiosity helped me in my career. But I learned something. My curiosity was pulling me in a direction that ended up teaching me a very valuable lesson that was maybe uncomfortable, but I really needed to grow through that. Maybe just to try a certain class or go do a certain thing or whatever. But I learned from that experience, and it was because I was following my curiosity. So hopefully, if you guys are listening, what I would like for you to come away today with are I guess two or three things. So one, to just allow for more awareness around curiosity. Pay attention. Start to notice, become aware when you find yourself curious about something, because it could be trying to take you in a new direction that's going to be the first step on your new path, maybe your career path. Maybe you are in a place where you feel like you don't know what lights you up. Maybe you don't love your job and you've been doing it a long time, and it kind of zaps your energy. And so you're feeling like, I don't even know what I truly want, what my purpose is. What I would suggest, if you're feeling like that, is to ask yourself, what do I feel like doing? What do I feel like doing right now? And that can be your first step. When we give ourselves what we need, it clears our mind rather than fighting against that thing that we feel like doing. I'll give an example of that here in a little bit, and how that helped me. um, when you give yourself what you need, your mind becomes clear, and what the clear of the frustration, agitation, because you're not fighting against what you need. You're giving it to yourself. So then you're relaxed. Then you can receive. That's when ideas come in, the present moment, and often your ideas, whether they seem illogical or even if they seem illogical, are the first step in the right direction for you. So become more aware, start to become more aware of when you find yourself curious. And also, I'm hoping that you guys will come away with a deeper understanding of the power of curiosity, and how it can guide you to achieve more with greater ease. Because it is possible to achieve your goals where you're flowing in this state, where you're more magnetic toward your goals. It is still a challenge, but it's a challenge versus a struggle, and there's definitely a difference. And curiosity can help with that. So if you take away, if anything that I talk about today resonates with you, then my third goal, outcome goal, would be for you guys to implement the knowledge, because knowledge without the application, of course, is useless. So curiosity can help in at least two ways, two ways I'm going to talk about today: in identifying problems and in finding solutions. And why is it important to identify and isolate the problem? Because if we don't know what we need or what the problem is, how can we solve it? Right. And oftentimes, once you do identify the real problem, excuse me, the solution is quick to follow, and often it finds you. So that's pretty cool. So one way you can start to employ curiosity is to just notice if you ever get an idea, something that you want to research, something that you want to try. Maybe you're kind of loosely following somebody's career path and you like what they're doing and you want to know more about it because maybe you want to do that. And you want to reach out to that person, send them a message on LinkedIn, or if you know them personally, give them a call. Do the thing. Or if you want to, go for a walk, or walk a different way. I've had, I'll just share this example real quick. One time I was going for a run in my neighborhood, and I uh, was at that time running a certain path. And that day, I know the reason why. I turned, instead of going straight like I normally would, because there was a group of people. I live in Manhattan, and sometimes you get, slowed down on the sidewalk because there's a group of people. I was running. So I turned and I went a different way. And I ended up running into a friend who had just lost her cat, and she was coming back from the vet, and she was so sad and she needed a hug. And I went a different way for a different reason. So just pay attention to these kinds of things. Sometimes, I guess I wasn't necessarily curious that day, but so maybe that was not the right example, but that is an example of how when you do something a little bit different, even if it seems illogical, you can create a new experience for yourself, and you don't know what might come from that. And then let's see. Yeah, so I encourage you to pay closer attention to seemingly insignificant moments where you find yourself curious about something, because it might take you in the right direction for you. So yeah, I'll give a couple examples now. So one day, so I'm generally very focused. A good reason that I can be very focused now is because, and most of the time in my career, because I stick with doing what I love. And once I no longer love it, I know it's time for a change. So you don't have to be as drastic as I am. It works for me. I'm a big risk taker, calculated risk taker. Um, but I pay attention to my emotions. And if something feels right, I go in that direction. If something doesn't feel right, it's time for a new direction. Um, yeah, so generally I'm very focused. And one day when I was still recruiting full time, so now I'm coaching full time. And there was a time when I was recruiting full time and coaching, part time. Anyhow, this one day I had a lot of work to do. And I was really struggling to focus on my work, which is unlike me. So for 4 hours, literally 4 hours that afternoon, I kept trying to push myself to get my work done. And really, what I felt like doing, the illogical action that I was kind of curious about, maybe, is I just felt like going for a walk. It was a beautiful sunny day, just wanted to go for a walk just for an hour. But I fought against that desire to give myself what I needed. And that was not the best move for me, because what did I do? I wasted 4 hours of time. So when we have, when we're not paying attention to and giving ourselves what we need, we create a distraction, a frustration in the back of our minds. So we're not as focused. So I was not focused. Accomplished very little in that 4 hours. And finally, I just observed the situation and I gave in and I said, just go for a walk. So I went for a walk for an hour. Nothing crazy happened, nothing even interesting happened on the walk. But when I got back, my mind was clear, which brought me in the present moment because I paid attention to what I needed. I gave myself what I needed, and then I got an idea. So this is what happens when we do an illogical action that we're curious about. We don't know why we want to do something. It makes no sense, but it just something. So I've always been passionate about inspiring others, and I had started just making motivational videos on my YouTube channel a couple years back at that point, and I was starting to get some positive feedback from it. And it dawned on me, I was in the present moment, and I got an idea. That's where we get our ideas. The only thing, time and place that anything ever happens is in the present moment. So that's when you will get your ideas. So if you're constantly pushing, trying to find a solution, just frustrated, but still driving in the same direction that doesn't seem to be working, maybe stop and pause, do something to get yourself present, take a deep breath, go do what you feel like, lean into that curiosity, this maybe other career path or class or, whatever it is that you want to do, lean into that and see what happens. So what happened for me that day was I got an idea to start offering coaching. It just seemed like the next logical step. And then I did. And then if you build it, they will come. So now I'm a coach. Crazy. Um, and then another example. So I actually really struggled to start my career path. I had during college, I had was that was the height of my anxiety. I used to struggle with debilitating anxiety attacks. So the worst, yeah, they were at their height during my senior year in college, and then also had some other, challenges, depression and stuff like that. But I always worked. I waited tables through college, and then so I always supported myself. I was always good with that. I had a strong work ethic and was supporting myself fine. So after college, it wasn't like, oh, now what am I going to do? I just kept working while I tried to figure out what I was going to do. And I really tried for 4 years after college. I kept waiting tables, going on interviews. And I was just getting increasingly frustrated that fourth year because I knew I had more to offer, more to give. Nothing wrong with waiting tables. I really liked it because, I could be free and independent running my section. I like being busy, active, multitasking, and I was good at it. And the money was good. But anyhow, one night, so let me make the point that during those 4 years, I was pushing, and not clear and present in my mind to really listen to and hear and feel and see what my path was or what I wanted. So I didn't identify it. I had no success identifying this is what I want. And a lot of times if we just identify the first step, you get on your path and then you see the next step. So it might be, if you know exactly what you want, it might be a short, direct path getting there. Or if you at least know how you want to feel and you explore your curiosity and you take a step in that direction, it could be just the first step on your path. And then only once you take the first step do you see the second. And then you keep going. And I'll share, yeah, how that worked out for me, the long route. But anyway, that's how you get started. You just, one step. And often it's, oh, okay, I'm curious about this. I want to try this. So I remember the night, I will never forget it. I was so frustrated with my inability to get my career started. And I got present. And back then, I was 26 years old at the time. I didn't know about these practices that I teach and am very aware of now and how powerful they are. But I brought myself present and out of my anxious, distracted mind by stopping looking for a solution. And I was sitting in my bed because it was bedtime. And I instead of searching for a solution, I gave up on that just for a moment, not even consciously. And I stated the problem. I said, I want a new job, but I don't know what it is. And then I took it a step further. That just cleared my mind. And it sometimes when we stop trying to make ourselves feel better and we just sit with how we're feeling, um, we feel better. It takes some pressure off. Eckhart Tolle talks about that in maybe The Power of Now or New Earth. I forget which one of those books. But anyhow, then I took it a step further and I said, okay, if I could do anything, what would I do? And that answer I had immediately. I said I would write. I've been writing since I was 7. I love writing. Um, and I'm good at it. Check out my books. I write nonfiction, self-development, motivational books. Anyway, then I went to bed. So I got present by stating the problem, and then just I went to sleep. And then what happened in the morning is I got an idea, something that I was curious about, and this curiosity, following this illogical idea, uh, was the first step that got me started in my career. So the illogical idea was, since I said I wanted to write, was to research, go online and check out the website for the local magazine where I lived at the time. And the reason it was illogical was because, okay, I said I wanted to be a writer, but I only had, as far as published writings, articles from my college newspaper. And looking back at them, they were actually really good. So maybe I could have gotten a staff writing job. I didn't even try because I didn't think it was possible with my limited experience. But something kept telling me to look on the website. So I was thinking, what am I going to do? I'm going to get an internship. I couldn't do that. I had my own apartment, so I had bills to pay. Um, so on the website, I saw a job opening for account executive, advertising, sales, and I read the requirements, of which I met none of. I had a degree, which wasn't required, and they wanted sales experience, which I did not have any. But my my logical mind said, "What are you doing? This makes no sense." My intuition, my curiosity said, "Just keep going." And so I wrote a very heartfelt cover letter and I submitted my inexperienced resume. And by the way, if you're not finding the opportunities you want, it is not your resume. We could chat about that another time. Definitely improvements you can make, but that's not what's holding you back. But anyhow, I got an interview and I got the job. And after 4 years of struggling, just by getting present, I got an idea, something I was curious about, and I took a step, even though it didn't seem to make any sense. And the manager saw something in me, and he gave me the job. And I was the number one sales rep for several months in a row that year. And it was scary because it was commission only. But I said, this is your opportunity. You've been struggling and trying for 4 years. You're making this work. And I did. So anyway, that was the start to my sales career. So I did a year of B2B, and then I got into medical sales. And then after several years, I transitioned to medical or recruiting for the industry. And then I started to work for myself. And then from there, I started to get increasingly frustrated. Oh, and then I'll talk about how you can get curious about your frustration too, how that can be very helpful too. Anyway, I started to get increasingly frustrated towards the end of my recruiting career because I was just noticing a lot of unnecessary inefficiencies that were happening in the process on the part of my clients' managers. I had great relationships and still do with a lot of managers I worked with, and I loved that. And I also really enjoyed coaching candidates, throughout the process. But I kind of felt like I had the 360 view, kind of bird's eye view of, the life of what the candidates going through, what the managers are going through, and what the recruiters dealing with. And I just could see, if we just did this and this and this, the process could be so much easier. So I wrote a book. I felt like I could help in a bigger capacity. So anyway, that was a long, windy journey from the start of, if I could do anything, I would write. So I didn't become a published author overnight. That was lots of years later. But through all of that, your path is how you get your experience that equips you to later make your greatest impact, the way that you are, in the meaningful way that only you can. And somebody out there needs what you have to offer. So remember that. This is what I'm super passionate about. I'm actually, if you guys are interested in hearing more about this kind of stuff, and you want to meet live and in person, and you happen to live in the New York City area, I'm going to be doing a talk on this kind of stuff. I'm calling it "Lead with What Lights You Up When You Believe You Achieve," because I'm just super passionate about that thing that lights you up. Why would it light you up if it weren't meant for you? So you don't have to quit your job today and freak out about the money, but you can get curious about, this thing that you're drawn to. And maybe it starts as just a curiosity. And you don't know that it lights you up, but you're curious about it for a reason. So explore that more deeply. And also, um, another way that you can use curiosity, I mentioned, that I'll circle back to now, is with your problems. a lot of times what we do is we want instant gratification. We don't like discomfort. We want to feel better. Very, natural human nature. But when we ignore our problems, they just get bigger. So what you want to do instead is get more curious about them. I call it focus on the frustration. There's a lot of power in that because sometimes what really frustrates you, maybe in a certain job, is the very thing that is going to catapult you in a new direction or propel you in a direction to maybe do the opposite of that thing. Maybe you're in a company culture where you're feeling very disempowered and all of this frustration is coming up because you're supposed to go another way. And then maybe you have an opportunity to make a bigger impact there where you feel more empowered. And then the example that, led me to writing my book, I was feeling frustrated. And also when I decided it was time for me to get even more free. So freedom is one of the things that's really important to me. You want to pay attention to what's important to you. I call it identifying your drivers. When you know what drives you, that's very important because then you can give yourself that. And if you're doing at least a little bit of what drives you every day, like for me, it's writing, speaking, and helping others. So now I do that every day. So I feel, fired up every single day. But there was a time when I wasn't doing that every day. And so I would give myself an hour. And then I felt, okay, I'm fired up now. I'm ready to go. And then I focus on my job. So, and then what happens is the balance starts to shift. And then when it's time to make that shift, to take that calculated risk. There will always be risk in the unknown because it's new. That's okay. So yeah, sit and focus on the frustration, even with seemingly small things. You want to get curious about it. Okay, how is it that I'm feeling? Instead of avoiding the discomfort, sit with it and get more curious about it. And then ask yourself a series of why questions. Okay, but why am I feeling this way? Okay, but why is that bothering me? Okay, but why? And then, you're going to get to the core. And then from there, typically the solution shows up. So pretty cool stuff. All starting with tools that you inherently have, curiosity and intuition, and I think they're very they're linked very closely together. So yeah. So just recapping how you can employ curiosity, become more aware when you are curious about something and then do the thing. And if you don't have, like, maybe you want to call a person to reconnect with them. Maybe there's a new exercise class that you want to try. You might meet somebody in that class that's going to introduce you to, whatever. But when you don't explore more deeply your curiosity, you are potentially leaving an opportunity missed. So maybe you'll still get there. It could just take a long time, or it could take a short time. So yeah, I think that's what I have for today. So I had fun. Hopefully you guys can hear me this time, and hopefully you had fun. If you have a topic that you would like to hear about or want me to speak on, feel free to shoot me a note. That would be fun. I think next week, so I'll go back to Tuesdays and I'll figure out the time, maybe noon or maybe 3, or I don't know if you guys know. We'll see what works best for people. But I think next week I'll talk about, is the how keeping you stuck, just because this is a big challenge or common challenge that I hear. Um, a lot of times people will stop themselves from starting but how am I going to get there? They're going to see the whole blueprint, and life doesn't work that way. And your career path doesn't work that way. I just demonstrated with mine, and there'll be more, stuff that I want to go on and do. But we can only take one step at a time. So let your curiosity lead you to the first step, even when it feels illogical. And often when it feels illogical, that's the thing that you want to do, because that's your intuition. So, okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. Oh, I have a comment here. Oh, hi, Chris. Thanks for reaching out. Love to hear from you guys. So feel free. Don't be shy. And if you're interested in the live event, I forgot to mention the details there. So I'm doing a talk and Q&A. It'll be for just an hour talk, and then I'll have plenty of time for Q&A. Would love to meet you guys. If you're local in New York City area, it's going to be at the NYC Seminar and Conference Center. So that's in the Flatiron District, Thursday evening, 7 p.m., May 18th. It's just a small space. So if we have a bunch of people, space will be limited. So I do have tickets, even though they're free. You want to register through Eventbrite and reach out if you have any questions. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a great night.